Hi there. I am Heather Wild. I am a lead gen and sales coach for high integrity coaches, healers, and consultants. This is my first time going live on YouTube. But yeah, I want to talk about how I help my client go from feeling discouraged and burned out and really frustrated and really confused because she was putting in all this work, but it wasn't getting the results that she wanted. And how we took her from a 5 out of 10 at the beginning of the session to a 9 out of 10 at the end of the session. So she is a brilliant Akashic Records reader, and she has been in business for about 6 years, but she's never invested in one-to-one coaching, I don't think, until me. I know she's done, had some group support. And so she knows a lot about online business, but she had a lot of holes in her knowledge and in her implementation because for everybody, like knowledge is good, but if you don't have somebody to hold your hand and walk you through how to do things, then you're not going to get great results. That is one of the things that took me forever to get my business off the ground because I kept investing in group programs and I wasn't getting enough support. And honestly, when I got one-to-one support, a lot of them didn't really give enough support for me to get things right, right? So my client, she's been doing this for 6 years, but she hasn't gotten a lot of traction because online business, despite what we were told, right? Especially like back when I got into it in 2013, online business is a lot more complicated than a 5-step process. So she has been working with me for a couple of months and she's creating a free resource, and she wanted to use a free resource that she had already created, and I'm like, great, let's do that because that's less work for you, right? But I forgot to ask some kind of key questions, and I should have asked her if I could look over it. I will be doing that from now on. She knew she could have, but any rate. So she's been putting it out for 2 weeks and she's been much more visible. She's been doing reels, she's been doing posts, and maybe even some like live stuff. I can't remember. But anyway, she's been way more visible, and it's a really great resource, and she's got a beautiful landing page for it and everything, but she wasn't getting a lot of opt-ins, and then the people that were opting in, she was giving them the option to get her expert feedback on the freebie for free, right? There were some questions that they can answer. And nobody was really taking her up on it. And she's high integrity, she's very heart-centered. She honestly wants to help people. It's not just about making money for her. And so, she was frustrated on a lot of levels. Like she's putting in all this extra effort, it's not paying off yet. And so before we even had the session today, I reached out to her a couple hours before and I was like, hey, is there anything you need me to look over before we get on this call? And I had given her one of my trainings called Always Know What to Post. And I thought she was going to do like the first like 2 or 3 out of the 10 trainings. She did all 10 of them. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But what's going on with your freebie, who's, interacting, who's finished it, all that kind of stuff. And that's when I found out that she was feeling kind of frustrated. So I was like, don't worry. I was like, I'm really sorry this is happening. I know it sucks. I have totally been there, but this is, you've been online for 6 years, but you haven't had a full system. And unfortunately, it's going to take a minute, to get traction. So I also asked her a few questions and I was like, okay, I see you've been more visible, but how many calls to action are you actually doing? And she was like, well, I feel funny about doing calls to action all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll talk about this on the call. And I took some notes before the call. And I have a session notes document for all of my clients, and there's a different tab for each session, and I give them action steps and everything. So everybody stays on the same page. I don't have to keep it all in my head. And hey, it looks like I have somebody watching live. Hi. um, so she gets on the call, and I'm like, how are you feeling about everything? And she's like, yeah, about a 5 out of 10. And I was like, okay. So we looked at the mindset piece, and like I I get really pissed off about a lot of the way the mindset is taught in the coaching world, because a lot of coaches, if you're having a problem, like your freebie, for instance, isn't getting as much traction as you want, the first thing they'll go to is, oh, well, it must be mindset, right? And you can spend the whole session like fucking around with mindset. And we did talk about mindset, but that wasn't ultimately, well, was part of the problem, right? So, but I took a very practical approach and I'm like, okay, "Is this business your soul's mission?" And she was like, "It must be because I would have given up a long time ago." And I was like, "Okay, I totally get it." It took me like 11 years to get my, business off the ground. So all the stories about overnight success that you see, very few of them are true in the strictest sense. Some of them are true with a lot of skewed facts and, not being completely transparent about a lot of things. But nonetheless, like, we've seen that over and over again, and so it can be very easy for us to be like, "Okay, this isn't easy. I'm working my ass off and nothing's happening. There's something wrong with me." And it's like, "No, we've just been fed a lie about how quickly most people are successful," right? So, I talked to her, I was like, "Okay, is this your soul's mission?" And she's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Are there people that maybe other practitioners, other Akashic records readers could help, right? But the people that you are meant to help are only gonna get, like, their best results and best transformation working with you. Does that ring true?" She was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, so you gotta let people know about it, right?" And, she actually shared a analogy or metaphor, I always forget, that she had learned where somebody was like, if you had the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, and people really love chocolate chip cookies, but you're not talking about the chocolate chip cookies, you're actually doing them a disservice. And I'm like, yeah, that is a very, very, very good analogy metaphor. And so yeah. The other thing that we found is that she was thinking, and this is very common with truly purpose-driven, soul-led business owners, especially coaches and healers, it can be really hard for us to feel good about charging and feel comfortable with marketing and comfortable with selling, right? It's a very, very common thing. And, we talked about it, and what she realized in, me asking her a few questions is that in her mind, a call to action always had to be the really pushy, sleazy, slimy, manipulative, like dark side of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So, like, when you read a sales page and by the end of it, you're squirming and you're just like, "Oh my God, I have to buy this or my life is over," that kind of crap. And I'm like, yeah, like, of course you don't want to do that, but all your CTAs, your calls to action don't have to be manipulative. They don't have to be gross. And so she was like, "Oh, okay." So I would like her to put a CTA on almost everything. She's not comfortable with that yet. Maybe she never will be. So I was just like, "What are you comfortable with?" And so we kind of negotiated on that. So that was good. And then, she was like, "Yeah, I've been posting in groups and I've been posting in threads." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, here's another gap, here's another hole in the implementation." And, this is I did actually talk to her about the posting, promo threads, in Facebook groups. I told her, like, "Don't do that." It's usually a waste of time, right? I was like, "Yeah, do find groups that you can actually post, like, on the main wall." So, we had a conversation about that, but also the groups that she's in, I had given her a list of really active business groups where I know she could find people who are also they're spiritual entrepreneurs, but the groups aren't necessarily spiritual entrepreneur groups. So she was telling me some of the groups that she was in, and I was like, yeah, like that. I'm not saying don't post there, but I'm just saying I'm not shocked that you're not getting a lot of leads if that's, where you're posting, and I'm not shocked that you're not getting leads that are following through from, these particular groups. So we had a discussion about that, and we, looked at, like, how can she make posting in groups easy and actually effective, um and which groups are going to be quality groups where you're going to have more likely for people to get their eyes on it that are actually going to sign up and actually going to follow through. So we did that. And then the funniest thing was we were talking about the offer that she put out, the free offer. And and I was like, "Well, how long is it?" I was like, she's like, I'm taking it personally that people aren't getting back to me, that they're not taking me up on, the opportunity to get my feedback on their work and everything." And I'm like, "I totally get that, totally been there. I'm sorry that's happening." And it's really normal. Like, people are busy, and as much as you've been online in the last 6 years, you didn't have somebody really helping you create a full strategy, and so even though you've been visible, you haven't been super visible, and so people don't know you yet. So, they're not maybe they don't understand the value yet, so they're not gonna spend a lot of time, on a resource. So I was like, "How long is it?" And she said and it was like it's like a PDF with some journal prompts in it, right? And, she's like, "Yeah," she's like, "I don't know, it's like, 4 or 5 pages long." And she's like, "Hold on." She's like, "I'm gonna open it up." She opens it up. It was 38 pages long. And we were cracking the fuck up about it because she's like, "Yeah, I think it's like 3 or 5 pages." She made this a long time ago, and, it turns out it's 38 pages long. So we're cracking up, and then I was like, I think the first freebie that I've been putting out, which is it's like a sales ebook Google document thing, and it's got 5 sales lessons, and they're real sales lessons, they're not bullshit. I don't believe in putting out fluffy bullshit. So, but I was like, yeah, I think it's too long too because I'm getting people interested, but I'm not getting as much engagement. I'm getting more engagement with my mini course, and I was like, I'm just curious because I thought my aligned sales or aligned yes playbook about sales was like 20 something pages long, which I'm like, that's really too long for people who aren't engaged with me yet. So I was like, my next launch, I'm going to cut that down. I went and looked. It's 36 pages long. And we cracked up. I was like, "Okay, so we both know, why our freebies aren't performing as well as they could be." And, but then if it turns out, like, her ebook is 38 pages, but then she had a 14-page journal thing, and I was like, "Yeah, no wonder." So what we did is, we switched out for another freebie that she already has, and we talked about how, she needed to, make a couple of tweaks on it and keep the Akashic business activation that she was already putting out that's 38 pages long plus a 14-page workbook, to keep that as an offer, but it needs to be a paid offer. And, so we adjusted the strategy and we made it so that she can tweak it. I think she's gonna be a lot more successful with this. And you just made it so that she wasn't having to like reinvent the wheel. And so, yeah, so we got to the end of it. We had a good laugh, we're laughing at ourselves at, are just, and this is another problem, really common problem with spiritual entrepreneurs, or even people that don't work in spiritual spaces, but just those truly heart led entrepreneurs who really are here to make a difference, not just make a lot of money. We tend to overgive. So we had a good laugh about that. And, by the end, I was like, okay, at the beginning, you were at like 5 out of 10 and, how you were feeling about your business. How are you now? And she's like, I'm at a 9 out of 10. And I was like, yes. So we nearly doubled her confidence and her feeling about her business. In, I don't know, it was probably about an hour and a half session. My sessions tend to go like an hour, hour and a half, but they're not just talking, like we're looking through homework. We're implementing together. We're, looking at session notes and action plans and, all the things. But, I was really proud of myself for being the type of coach that takes the time to really find out what's going on instead of being like, well, if your freebie's not doing well and okay, you're posting okay and it's not working, then it must be your mindset. You go work on your mindset. Like mindset's a thing, but a lot of times it really is like a strategy thing or, a hole in implementation, because we don't know what we don't know, you know? It's like she thought she was doing everything that I had suggested that she do, and she was for the most part, but there were just a little few things that had fall through the cracks. So that just felt really amazing. And then, I'm down in Cusco, Peru. I've been here for 3 months. Actually, this is my second day as an undocumented illegal down here, which it's fine here. Like I just have to pay like 5 soles a day as a fine, and so yeah, so I'm an undocumented illegal, which I think is hilarious. And I went to hear my favorite band play, La Satura Carmesi, and I actually got to see them play 2 different sets at 2 different restaurants, and they pulled me up to sing with them both in both places. So I got to perform twice tonight, which is really, really cool. Yeah, so I coached someone and got to make a real impact today. I got coached by my manifestation and mindset coach, Louise Jeffrey, today, and that was a really good session. And then I got to sing in 2 places. So yeah, this is like It's like a very, very perfect Heather day, and I'm just so grateful for my clients. I'm so grateful for my coaches. I've got a manifestation and identity coach, and then I have a breath work and Reiki healer that I'm working with right now, Bronwyn Haley, and or is it Hallie? Bronwyn. Anyway, she's amazing too. Had a session with her earlier this week that was amazing. So yeah, just having a great week and loving. I love working with my clients. I love seeing them make progress. I love like getting in it with them, you know, rolling up my sleeves and really like figuring out what the fuck is going on so that we can get them, you know, we can get them that quick progress, and it just feels really, really good. So thanks to everybody who watched live. Thanks for everyone who, I don't know, watches this ever. And if you're interested in learning how to make sales and get leads in a very high integrity, low pressure, no pressure really way, um, I will put a link to my overdone ebook for now, but it's a lot of value. It may feel intimidating, but there's a whole lot of value in it, especially if you turn in the exercises, and I will give you some voice note feedback. Yeah, so I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna go binge some Angel because I'm obsessed, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.